which is why I've just hired someone to kind of help me, and it's been a blessing. It's a student of mine. So, and that's another thing about me. All of my staff are my students that I've worked with for years and years and years. So that's been a blessing as well to keep them active. But so we're working on that social media game.
Absolutely. Branding is always going to keep one, I think, and
Yeah,
for actors, for musicians, and
right.
even for directors and acting coaches.
For sure.
And it's amazing. And I think will you be teaching those techniques as well in Africa where you'll be
Yes,
filming?
absolutely. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. And this is a great breakthrough. As many, even though there's many film directors and producers that do go overseas all the
Mhm.
time to film, because they're doing a lot of location searching. And
Right.
so with you actually building a school over in
Hmm.
Africa, like, oh,
Yeah.
this is
Right.
it's an amazing connection. And so everyone, please do look up Jonna Johnson
Thank
and
you.
find out more about that film productions as well. Amazing woman, and I'm so honored to have her on as well.
Thank
So,
you. I'm so
Jonna, thank you,
honored. Thank
and
you.
stick around because Bruce really wants to connect with you today because
Awesome.
he's also a producer in LA. So this will be
Awesome.
wonderful.
Absolutely.
Thank you
Okay.
again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, and so now you've heard from Jonna Johnson and uh, and all the amazing things that are happening overseas for her production company. Now I want to bring on someone else on stage now that also has a mentoring program in the industry and has a lot of information to bestow upon all of the viewers today. His name is Bruce Nahan, and please do welcome him on the screen.
Oh, Jonah, I sent you an Instagram message.
Awesome, Bruce. I'm going to look forward to that.
Thank you.
He's absolutely amazing. He's a wealth of information, so much wisdom, like yourself, Jonna. So this is going to be a great connection, indeed.
Awesome. I look forward to it. And I was able to hear you earlier today. I was on at 10:30, so I look forward to
Yeah,
chatting with you.
everyone, yes, definitely go to the earlier, live stream, definitely, because she had a lot of information for everyone who to succeed, and this is what the stage is all about. Thank you, Ms. Jonna. Oh, and Mr. Bruce, I am so stage as well, and I'm
You're
glad that
back.
I had the honor to to have Jonna Johnson to be a part of the production. Now, Mr. Bruce was actually speaking about VR being introduced into the industry of film, which is amazing. And I think PGA was in that discussion as well. Is that right, Mr. Bruce?
Yeah, the
Speaking of
PGA,
VR.
the Producers Guild, has an amazing diversity workshop. We offer once a year. It's 10 weeks. All A-lister producers and whatnot. Application is fierce because we get about 20,000 applications for the 10 spots. But it's a really, really good. If you've got a project that you want to refine and get ready to pitch and talk to the name producers, that's something to look into. You might check at the Producers Guild Diversity Workshop, see when it's next taking place. With COVID, we suspended this year, but it's an excellent program.
Oh wow, wonderful. Is there a certain qualities that one should have in order to uh, be
Oh, it's
qualify for that?
it's very subjective. They'll interview you and then interview you some more, and then when they're done interviewing you, they'll start all over. You submit your projects, you fill out a lengthy application. But it's the Producers Guild of America.org, I think. But you'll find all the information you need for the diversity workshop there.
Amazing, amazing. What really started the conversation of VR, the VR technique, to be introduced into the entertainment industry, Mr. Bruce?
I'm sorry, I missed
Um,
the first part of what you said.
what started the conversation about VR, the VR technique, to
Yes,
be introduced into the industry?
VR was a real hot commodity a year or two in the Producers Guild. There were lots of seminars, lots of workshops. We even had 2 or 3 expos, and I've heard nothing. There's not been any mainstream product released utilizing it. None of the interactive stuff they had talked about has come to pass. But there is one person that shoots in 360 um, that came out of that conference. And it's kind of awesome to be immersed in the middle of a movie when it's all around you. So you guys look out for that. It's done. I think there's a place in Vegas that does it, and other places.
So this is something that we should look out for in the future, as far as being
Yeah, I think
immersed
that
into film and.
I can see it with music videos. I can see it at music concerts.
Hmm. I think so now, more so, and for COVID-19, as we are kind of encased in our homes, VR would be something that the community of entertainment would want to
Well,
introduce.
well, the Oculus and stuff like that for home use is available now, but it's just games, pretty much. The incorporation of it into a mainstream movie where you can interact with the movie isn't refined yet. It's in the beginnings.
That is, that will be amazing, to see that, and I know that it will really immerse the younger generation to want to, uh, you know, to really research that and actually incorporate in their independent films, which by the way, I want to plug in that we are doing a 2 contests called Independent Filmmakers Contest, as well as the film soundtrack contest as well. And you know some of the speakers are thinking about possibly the judges for that particular contest. It's actually up on eventbrite.com now, and also on masterentertainmentworkshops.org. I would really love for Mr. Bruce to be,
Of
because
course,
uh,
you got my heart. Anything you want.
uh, and it's always an honor, because you have so much knowledge in the industry itself.
I,
With your background, you were uh, one of the directors for Red Dawn, I believe, for Red Dawn.
I was one of the
Um,
producers. That goes back a long time. I had a great working relationship with Patrick Swayze and a great friendship. I think I'm in 8 of his movies as an actor. Patrick,
Amazing,
well, when I was
amazing.
film commissioner in Santa Clarita, Patrick would want me to go hang, and I wouldn't go hang with him unless he gave me a line. So I'm punctuated through a lot of his movies. You'll miss me if you blink.
Oh no, I would not. I have to keep my eyes open, and I will keep my glasses polished so I can not miss you, Bruce.
Yeah, there's a film
At
called,
all.
one of his films is called Three Wishes, and I'm before the credits start at the beginning. So if you're getting popcorn, you will miss me.
I will stand stagnant to not miss you. Now you also now you also are on the board. I think on the board as a judge for Sundance Films. I want to make sure that
I
have the
judge
information.
6 or 10 film festivals each year. Doesn't matter where I'm at. Not supposed to say those things. But yeah, I've judged all around.
Wow. Great insight when it comes to scripts and screenwriting. But I guess what I hear a lot is about funding for films and how to get the funding. Dawn Noel, to speak about her film, because
Right.
her film
Dawn's a
is
great lady.
based on wonderful. I mean, she's so multifaceted
She
in
is.
the arts, and she's very passionate.
I see a
Uh,
lot of the people
she's a choreographer.
on your list. There's a lot of people I work with. My mentee Charles Clark is on your list. Dawn's on your list, and maybe Joni and I will be on each other's list soon. But yeah, it's always fun working with young talent. I met with one of your talent, a lady named Lynn, yesterday for coffee. But I probably do
Oh
10,
wow.
12 mentoring meetings a week. She's from Norway. I don't know if she's on here today, but one of your kids. But I love mentoring young kids. We got to pay it forward, guys.
Amen, amen. And with this the staging that we have now for just to really gain insight on how to find funding, how to gain more royalties in the entertainment industry, as now more than ever people are becoming more independent. And not as far as not being a board for Warner Brothers or the major film production companies, and they're
The
starting to be
market's
more
wide
independent.
open for indies right now because nothing's been made. So if you go on your Spectrum or Cox VOD, most of those are indie movies on the on demand right now. I've got several clients who are up there, and there's stuff that might not have seen the light of day but for COVID. COVID's also forcing us to rethink things. I was with some people between your sessions discussing how to film a very low budget movie. And I just came off of a relatively low budget that we produced in Texas. But then again, I've got $100 million movie in Savannah waiting for me. So they're making all kinds. But the problem with a $100 million movie is they don't know where they're going to exhibit it. The theaters are closed.
Oh,
Netflix pays pennies
yes.
and Amazon pays pennies. I don't know if your audience knows, but every time they watch an Amazon Prime movie, if it's 2 hours long, the producer gets 32 cents, 16 cents an hour. And
Wow.
Netflix deals are like that too. They're not humongous paying, so you have to have a lot of viewers. So what I would encourage people doing is to do as low budget as they can because it's a better way to recoup your investment off of VOD, off of Redbox, selling at Walmart, things like that, because the streamers don't pay much.
Oh, this is very interesting, and it really kind of transgress the thoughts, the thought making of what can independent filmmakers do in order to gain more benefits, but also gain more of more funding, personal funding, to recuperate their funding from
Well, that's
making
why I said
films.
do the lower budget. SAG has a beautiful contract called the ultra low budget. Netflix takes you 3 years to get paid. They pay each year. I don't know if anybody knows it here, but Netflix
Let's see.
owes the better part of $20 billion in junk bonds, but they owe the better part of $50 billion to talent and content makers because they're buying everything on credit. So it just takes a
What does
long
it
time
mean,
to get your money from them.
for
I'm
wow.
sorry?
What can they do, in the meantime? Mr. Bruce, what could they do in the meantime as they're waiting for, getting accredited back, funding
Well,
for
there's a
their
lot of
films that are
places
on?
you can sell your contracts. There are people who for 75 cents, 80 cents on the dollar will buy it. We do that with our tax incentives. If I'm going to shoot in Georgia, which has a wonderful tax incentive of 40% now, but they don't pay it till the film is done after it's been audited. That's about 3 years after it's been made. So in order to use the tax credit for your movie, you sell your tax credit. And there are people who that's what they do. They broker tax credits. And maybe you can get 80 cents on the dollar now and use it towards your film.
That's amazing. That's really great information for independent filmmakers to know.
Well,
As they are, trying to. Yes,
well, the one problem
Mr.
with
Bruce.
indie films are low budget is generally most states have a minimum spend before you get any credits. So regrettably, the $100,000 movie won't qualify for tax credits. So they're going to have to find investors and they're going to have to do it as cheap as they can and as quick as they can. When we were in Texas on the last low budget, I think we were shooting 16-hour days, 6 days a week to get it done as quickly as we
Long
could.
after.
Yes. For an old man, that's a long
But
day.
well, an older man with a lot of knowledge, yeah, a lot
That's
of
true.
knowledge that is very useful.
Well, you'll hear
Yeah,
from Charles. He can tell you the useful language and how what I tell people works.
absolutely. He's such an amazing actor himself. You know,
And it's
you know,
good
I'm
to
not sure if
see.
he's interested in producing anytime soon.
No, he's doing
You know,
tremendously in
um,
acting right now, and you've got Don Noel coming. She's wonderful. So
yeah,
you got a massive talent here today.
absolutely, and Sheffic as well. You know, he works 24 hours a day. I think. You know
I think
himself.
everybody
You
who
know,
produces movies do.
it's not something that people think that it's the limelight, it's luxury, but it's more or less it's a creative passion that you work for. That's what Paul Curiazzi would say himself. He funded his whole film Forbidden Powers, and of course he won many awards for his film with Harry Mock. But he funded his whole entire film, and he novelized his film, which is interesting. What he immediately said to
Well,
of for his lineups
well, I tend to be involved in about 30
Mr. Bruce.
movies a year, and they run the gamut from very low budget to high because I'm hired to run production by the producers, and you get to see a lot as the executive in charge, so to speak. But it runs the gamut. If people want to reach me, Instagram's at Bruce Nahan. That's where I take messages. Go there, just like Joni before. It's the best place to leave me messages, and I'll respond to anybody.
Okay, absolutely. And also, the Lunch Network will be on TV Pro. You can actually see a lot of Mr. Bruce's work there as well. He's
It's
also an entertainment lawyer.
Yeah, IMDb doesn't have an ability to talk back to me though. So if they want to reach me and talk to me, Instagram's the place to do it.
Okay. Everyone, do take note because this is a wonderful gentleman that has years of knowledge and credibility to his name.
Too many years.
And
It's almost 45
if
years. Pleasure talking to everyone
well,
today.
those years are going. Stay tuned, everyone, because we are going to be coming back September 10th as well, because we are still running the contest. So if you have any questions, be sure to click on the links over at LiveX Sports LLC's you know website, and you'll be able to find how to connect with every one of the speakers today. Mr. Thank you so much, Mr. Bruce. You're
It's my pleasure
always
as always,
wonderful.
Yolanda. Anytime. Take care, everyone.
Absolutely, Mr. Bruce. Blessings.
Bye bye.
Okay, bye. And I have another roll call for a wonderful person right after Bruce. It's a protege of Mr. Bruce, and his name is Charles Clark. And I would love to give applause and welcome to Mr. Charles.
Go get it. Go
Hello.
get him, Charles. I warmed
Bruce,
him.
love you, man. Love you, man. Love you, love you, love you.
I warmed the
My
audience
mentor.
up for you, man.
Oh, man, they're on fire, man.
Absolutely,
They're on fire. Thanks,
Yolanda,
Alonzo. Thank you.
see you guys later.
absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye
Um,
bye.
this is having amazing actors and directors and people that have backgrounds in entertainment that have an expertise and knowledge to give to those who are viewing. So this is why we do it. And Charles, you're amazing. I love when I saw your performance, your audition. You took me into another realm, and I thought I do not want to meet this character in a dark alley because you really had the character. You really did. And I watched Volkov, and it's on Amazon Prime. Is that right? Because I think
Yeah.
Yolanda,
that's where.
get rid of the old white guy so this young man can talk. I'll say
No,
goodbye now, Charles.
oh,
Oh no! You know what? You know what?
you know we love
I want
you.
I want to say this right here. When I first came on the scene as an actor, started off a background extra, of course. My mentor
At
Bruce was one of the
Power
first. Yeah, well, yeah, Empire. Yep.
Empire.
Yep. Bruce, my mentor Bruce was one of the first people that came into my life and my journey and believed in me. I had a lot of doubters. You know, a guy come out of prison. You know, he's a great speaker. He can articulate, but acting, I don't know. And
No.
I used to believe these people. You know, and they were dream killers. Of course, now they're regretting it. But Bruce told me the one thing that Bruce
Using
told
their
me.
words.
Yeah, Bruce told me. He said if you don't believe in yourself, then who will? And
Amen. Oh,
that's something I remember he told me that on a phone call. And I just learned to let myself be in a space to where I know that if you put your mind to it, if God took me out of that area of chaos, it was for an apparent reason. And so, you know, acting, a lot of people want to get into acting, I guess for the popularity, to be famous, red carpets on. As everybody knows, I didn't become an actor for that. I didn't even know I was going to become an actor. My grandmother, of course, exposed me to that because for y'all who don't know, Bruce know about this, and also Sister Yolanda. I did almost 8 years in prison, gang banging, goon enforcement. I mean, I was a very violent, chaotic lifestyle because you know I lost my dad at the age of 6, so it put a pounding on me as a kid growing up. But you know, with that lifestyle, it's prison or death, and I don't say luckily, I'm gonna say a blessing that it was prison because death, of course, you can't come back from. My grandmother, she didn't see me for my entire time locked up because she didn't want to see me behind a cage. But she did come a couple of months before I got out of prison. And when she came with my aunt and uncle, my aunt rushed over to me. She looked in my eyes and says, Charles, look at me, not over there, look at me. I'm like, what? You know, I'm excited to see my grandma. I ain't seen her almost 8 years. So your grandmother's dying. She got 3 brain tumors. She has dementia. She thinks that this prison yard is a military base. My dad was in special forces. And she thinks that you are your dad. So for the whole 2.5 hours, you have to become your father. If you act like anybody else, it will put a stress on her condition. So imagine me 2.5 hours looking into the eyes of my grandmother who was dying and becoming my best friend, my hero, my dad, who's already dead. I was able to condition myself to withhold the emotions that I really want to let out, my crying, everything. I remembered everything I learned about my dad growing up from my grandmother, you know, friends, the relatives. And once I was done, the CEO at the time on that ship, he came put me to the side. I thought I did something wrong. He says, no. He says, whatever you do, Clark, his exact words, you need to be an actor. And I said, huh? He said that was an Oscar performance. For you to sacrifice yourself for your grandmother in this type of condition, no actor can do something like that, even trained. He said, I love movies. I follow all this stuff. He said, you need to be an actor. And at the time, I was like, whatever, you know, I'm not going to be no actor, you know, whatever. And when I got out, 2009, February the 18th, I landed a role in an independent film that same year. The guy saw me. He was like, hey, I'm a film director. You have the look that I'm looking for. Want to be in a movie? And I was like, okay, Grandma, I get it. And that's what I get the bug then. Yep. And so
it's into existence.
It's being into existence. So whenever I prepare for a role, I hear my grandma say, let's go. You know, let's get it. And some people say, most people say I'm a method actor. I can do characters well. What I do is I just find something relevant to that character that is relevant to me. I find a certain truth, the emotions, the mindset, their dislikes. You know, I studied it to the point to where Charles D. Clark no longer exists. The character exists because when they hire me, they're not hiring me per se. They hire the character that they already envisioned. So, you know, just studying, training, having mentors like Bruce, you know, the support of people like you, Sister Yolanda, and just being true to the craft and giving God the glory. You know, I would never sell out. It's been a great journey thus far, and I gotta get to LA soon so I can have coffee and lunch with my mentor. You know, after all these years, and then we got to meet with Sister Yolanda. But it's important. One thing I've learned in COVID-19, I understand it's stressful, it's a tribulation. There's people who even killed themselves during this trying times. And what I encourage people to do is that COVID-19 is a time for you to get to know yourself. A lot of times we know certain lyrics to songs, we know the movies, we can quote the movies, all the stuff. But when do we really know certain things about ourselves? We look in the mirror to shave, or ladies put on makeup or fix their hair or whatever. But have you looked at yourself and see the greatness in you? And one day I did that. I looked in the mirror and I said, you're going to get everything that you asked for and some. You're going to bless people. You are great. I didn't go in there because I had to brush my teeth and wash my face or whatever. I went in there specifically to tell myself that. And it works. It works. Because if I can't convince myself that I'm that great, then I can't convince the world. But then I say to myself, why convince the world? If I'm that, if the God in me is that, then I can present that. So I've been encouraging people through COVID-19 to find yourself. If you're an actor or an actress, train. There was so many free workshops that you could take advantage of, free, seminars. And then, of course, what we're doing now to learn from people like, Mentor Bruce and, what's it, Sister Johnson, I believe? Was it here?
Miss
Yes.
Donna Johnson.
Donna Johnson. I follow
Yes.
her on Instagram. A very amazing woman. I'm doing great things for the industry. So when you have people like that, that's giving you free wisdom, that's giving you jewels that usually you have to pay for. Like the stuff that she was saying and the things that Mentor Bruce be giving you, if you go through someone off the Richter scale of just normalities of just communication, just saying, hey, I'm gonna call a friend up. Can I talk to this person to get this information? Well, it's gonna cost you, it's a fee or this and another. When you literally can get everything free right now and to bless your life. So it's very important and it's very imperative that we absorb this information and apply it. And again, it's all about balance. So, I'm just grateful. I'm grateful. I'm blessed. If I can see you and Brother Bruce right now, that means that I'm beyond blessed because dead people can't be on here right now, so we have to count our blessings. And I'm in a happy place right now. I'm in a very happy place.
I'm really happy for you, Charles, starting off at Empire like you did and how you've grown in 2-3 years. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, Mentor Bruce, again, love you, man. And you was there
Love
a
you
lot of
too.
times when I was doing my lives, when I was driving to Chicago. Sister Yolanda, people don't understand the concept. I was making $20-some an hour as a behavioral specialist. Because when I got out of prison, I went back to college, in the psychology field, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. So I was working as a behavioral specialist and suicide counselor. So when I heard about Empire, Taraji P. Henson, love you, Taraji. That's my sister in Christ, another mentor. Also, brother in Christ, Terrence Howard, love Terrence. When I heard they was coming back together, they've been in Hustle and Flow, Animal with Vin Rings. What's the other movie with Terrence was a cop? Some top of my head, Brothers. I think it was Brothers. Yeah. So when I heard about them, I was like, oh my God. And I thought it would be in New York because it was a New York setting. And I thought I was in Chicago. I was like, Chicago? That's almost 14 hours. And something says, you know what? You got to go for it. Just go. And everybody says, Charles, are you going to drive to Chicago just for an extra? And I did 7 times in a month. I drove up there 7 times, 14 hours up there and back while I was still trying to do TV One stuff, as a detective. The pain, mentally, physically, and emotionally, was excruciating. A lot of people don't know. I almost died in 3 accidents because I fell asleep.
Oh my goodness.
I pushed myself that hard because
40-some hours, and my father, he died in an accident when he was 31 going to 32, so that really took a toll on me. But I always say to myself, if it's not worth dying for, you shouldn't do it, because that means you can put it all in. But I also have to remember too, common sense. You don't want to just give your life away because of what the devil wants. But I did it. God spared me because He knew what I was doing was for Him, giving Him the glory. And I honestly believe if I was doing it for myself, I wouldn't be here right now. But I was giving God the glory, so He protected me and alerted me.
Amen.
And The eighth time I went up there,
Yes.
they had too many extras. And they said, well, Charles, you're the guy that drives from VA, right? I said, yes, I am. He said, oh, okay. He said, well, we ain't gonna send you back. We'll send you to another set, and we'll put you in front of the crowd or something, and we'll do whatever. And this was a set where Exhibit was on. He would just break it into his Star Roller Shine, and they shipped me to that set. I was put in the front of the crowd, and I seen the director or the AD, the producer kept looking at me. And I'm 6'1", I'm 270, and not fat neither. So, I'm stern, like, yeah. When they saw me, they came in and talked to me. Hey, how you doing? And we started talking. I told them about my testimony. So here it is, me being a real goon enforcer in the streets with some of the biggest people in the streets, kingpins, whatever. And so it was authentic. And they said, well, today we want you to be a goon today. I says, what? Okay, fine. So I got for the stage at the camera test. We was on set for almost 18 hours. It was Exhibit's birthday. And it was just for fill-in for that day, but to meet everybody. And like Brother Mentor Bruce said, when you're on set and seeing the executive side, because I'm always a person to learn both sides of the acting business. Most actors who don't understand both sides of the camera will never succeed. You have to understand the business. It's imperative. So I did that. Everything was good, copacetic. Drove home. Now I drove up there 14 hours, got moved to that set, was on set for 16 to 18 hours, then I drove back home 14 hours. And I was tired, but I was on a natural high. Like, wow, okay, it was my first time getting featured, on a primetime show. 2 weeks later, that's my dog. Hey. They said hi to y'all. Hold on for a second.
Hello.
So they came inside. I'm sorry about that. So yes, I'm on the call. So oh my God. So here you go. So yeah. So they slid it out. Sorry about that. That's my protection. But so what happened is 2 weeks later. Hold on for 1 second. Let me put them outside. I'm sorry. They came inside. I'm sorry.
You're fine.
Well, while Charles
Such
is
an
gone,
amazing-
this young man went from being an extra on Empire to leading roles in less than 2 years.
Less than 2 years. Wow. That's amazing.
He's not going to tell you that. He's got to ramble on about Exhibit and stuff. But let's talk turkey while he's gone.
Yes.
You interrupted the strokes I was giving you.
Yes, I thought my dogs were outside, but obviously they came through the door. They didn't open the door.
Anyway, you were telling them you're done with Exhibit. Then you went back 2 weeks later.
Yeah, 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, I got a email, and then I got a phone call all in the same week, and it was like, Charles, we want you to be one of Sean's main goon enforcers for the entirety of his character. And I said, what? I was like, wow, okay. I was excited. I cried a little bit. I was emotional. I was like, whoa, okay. So I went back for the first time after that. And, when you go into the wardrobe room and see your name on the wardrobe beside Exhibits, it's like, whoa. And, when you ride in the Mercedes, the Mercedes cab versus the, rusty white vans for extras, which I don't knock it because I forget where I come from. It's a reality check, and it's show you how grateful one should be, and how God can change your life in an instant. And I'm telling you, and Sister Yolanda, Bruce is a witness to this because, like I said, he's been in since day one. When I got on Empire, and to this day, my brand on social media, there was roles that I've gotten, and didn't have to audition. It was that powerful. Empire was the #1 hit show, prior TV show in that time before all this other stuff happened. But it blessed me, And to this day, when somebody interviewed me, or somebody bring me on, Charles E. Clark, known for Empire, and even though Taraji getting her spinoff, but talking about the previous Empire legacy, it goes to show you that if I can, drive all those hours and those miles, that's over 27,000 miles in a month. That's more than the average person doing a year. The average person drives 16,000 miles in a year. Actually, an insurance company, they'll tell you that's the average. I did 27,000. I think I'm being lenient on that in 1 month.
Look where it got
That's
you, kid.
amazing.
Exactly, because you got to think about it. I was doing it's roughly, let's say, 900 miles, so 1,800 round trip. And if you do 1,800 times 7, but then I was going to other places at a minimum 12 to 13 hours in that same week. So we'll double that. 1,800 and 1,800 is what? 36?
36.
3,600.
Look at me.
There you go. Bruce, 3,600. So if I'm doing 3,600, sometimes 3 times, and I'm going to say within a month and a half, sometimes 3 times a week. Auditions, small bit roles that I was appreciative of. If I can do that, there's no excuse for anybody else. I left a great job with great benefits, single dad, got to take care of my mom, and I risk it all to do this. And I realized that what we know is risk, what the world teaches us traditionally as risk, in the eyes of God is called faith.
So tell them how many
Yes.
projects
Faith by-
you've done since Empire.
Whew, probably 25, 26. I'm pushing 30.
Amen.
And
There you are,
it
guys.
would have been mid-30s, and I stress this to people. I don't like being a part of projects, especially on IMDb, that's been sitting up there for a year or more, because I want to be something that's within 6 months at least or less of going into the pre-production. So a lot of the projects, I guess they didn't have the funding or whatever, so I had to remove them. But yeah, as far between TV One, independent films, a couple of big screen, and then with the ID channel, I did 13 shows alone on that as a lead detective.
Wow.
But see, that's the secret though. And again, my mentor Bruce told me, stay relevant. No role is too small. A person get a nice role, they fall off the map for 2 or 3 years. I'm known to get these featured roles. Boom, boom. Every month you got to see me. And now it's paying off now. You're like, man, Charles, I just hit him with this last week. It ain't the biggest role, but it's necessary. And it keeps me relevant.
Amen.
So,
Keep it
yeah.
up, kid.
There's no
Keep it
small
up.
role. There isn't.
Exactly. My next
Indeed.
biggest goal, my vision board, is to work in a project that my mentor, Bruce, is a part of.
Amen. We'll put that together, kid.
Yes. I mean, come on. It's incredible. I mean, yes. I mean, you know how great it is to be a part of something that you love and passion, and the person that helped steer you in that direction, you finally work with them. That's phenomenal. Look at Devon Franklin and Will Smith. Devon Franklin was a mentee, and Will Smith was his mentor. He worked with Will Smith. Then he ended up helped producing, Hancock and all the rest of these movies with Will. So to gain knowledge and to elevate in this industry with mentor Bruce, and to be able to work with him, that's, to me, that's grand. That's grand.
It'll
So,
happen sooner than later.
oh yes.
I mean, we both do so many projects a year. We'll get it.
Oh yeah, it's bound to happen. And same thing with you, sister Yolanda. You're doing great things. Let's not leave you out. I mean, your progression in the film industry. Got to put your progression, because it's a divine connection. I mean, when she first brought up your name, mentor Bruce, I was like, I said, you don't understand. That's like my godfather. That's like my he like my Hollywood father. That's my mentor. She's like, what? I said, ask him about me. It's a
That's true.
small world, divine connection. So I'm
Yeah.
sure that all three of us is manifesting to do something together anyway. So it's just about positive vibes and
Very soon.
yes, of course, you already know.
Very soon. It's including the upcoming film that I have on IMDb about Mansa, and which is a historical film, and it has something that I embrace very much so when it comes to history, about the wealthiest man, in history, and he doesn't get enough. They don't get enough, speech and talk about. Mansa and institutionalized education. So I love films like that that really bring hidden historical figures to life, and I cannot wait to have someone like yourself and Mr. Bruce, absolutely Mr. Bruce as my co-producer, and I'm very honored to
Anytime,
have him,
anytime, Yolanda.
and also. Charles D. Clark, of course, who I just really admire the way you utilize techniques to really bring and get into the thoughts of the character, and you do it so well.
I,
Um, and, you really
well, you
do.
know what? I tell you what it is that a lot of people out there, I guess, they honestly are limited or afraid in this craft. You know how many shows I've been on where people say, Charles, do us a monologue, whether make up one or a scene from a movie. And I say, okay, what do you want me to do? Anything? They'd be like, yeah, do anything. And I do it. I don't be like, oh, I'm bashful, I'm scared, or I don't know, because I love it. This is what I'm built for. My grandmother gave her last, dying days to me to show me this is what you're supposed to do. So I have to do that. Chris, let me shut the door. I'm on the thing. So it's like, it's like I to give you an example. Last night I did. We look at freestyles, like as far as rapping or maybe R&B. I don't know. But last night I challenged myself in freestyle, and I said I want to do two monologues into one. And I want to be completely different. And I did a scene from John Q. And I instantly went into a scene of Gene Hackman, Lex Luthor, and Superman 2.
Gene
And I
Hackman.
showed it to a
Wow,
couple of
amazing.
people, and they were amazed. They said, Charles, like, how could you? And I said, because I don't do it for the money. I don't do it for success. All I can see is my grandma saying, okay, boy, let's go. So when I see that, it pushes me, it drives me. John Q, uh, uh, you know, I felt his pain because my daughter almost died at birth from trichomalacia, was a flap in the throat. And we took her to Children's Hospital in Washington, D.C. Yep. And I told the doctor, I says, whatever you have to do, if you have to kill me, do it. Take my throat, take my lungs. I want to die so she can live. So I used that relevant to the character. And then Lex Luthor, well, in the streets, you know, negotiating and hustling, you become different people whoever you connecting with. Lex Luthor was one of the greatest villains in comic book history, and Gene Hackman delivered very well. So
He did.
to do those two totally different together, I want to be the kind of person to be ready. If someone like a mentor Bruce Calvin, Charles, give me a guy who owns a hot dog stand and he's trying to borrow a hot dog to get a free haircut from a barber, I can instantly tap into that. Hey, Charles, become a taxi cab driver who's having a discussion with somebody in the back who actually is the person his wife is cheating with. You know what I mean? I can tap into that. Different scenario that might be way off that's unorthodox.
Wow.
So I just want to always stay prepared and inspire people. And again, it's never about me. It's never about you know popularity or being a celebrity. It's all about just being one of the greats of the craft, continue to extend the legacy of those who gave us the wisdom and foundation as mentor Bruce, and even yourself, Sister Yolanda, and pave the way for the next generation.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, indeed. And I cannot wait. And I see Suge Knight I don't know what it is. It's when I
Hey,
see Suge Knight next
I'm
to your
telling you,
you
I
get it.
need Mentor Bruce to shake up LA and let them know, get this movie going. Look, let's keep it real here. Let's keep it real. Um, and I'm not knocking the past people who played Suge Knight because they did their job. Okay. However, I've studied Suge Knight to the T. I have people who actually know him and been around him who said you should do this. Um, I was a real life gangbanger. I was really in the streets. Suge Knight was 6'2". People thought he was like 6'5". He really wasn't 6'5". He was 6'2". He was 315 to 325. I'm 270. However, I know how to work out my power lifting. When I was on Empire, I was 315. And one of the reasons why, outside of me being a goon enforcer, they said I look like Suge Knight, and they wanted Suge Knight presence to be with Exhibit because Suge Knight was what? A bodyguard at first, for like Bobby Brown and so forth.
Yes.
So when I saw that they doing a Vanilla Ice movie, I already knew Suge Knight was going to be a part of the cast because that's one of the most highlighted eras, you know, of
Hanging over the side at 8200
exactly,
Locher.
exactly,
Yes.
exactly. So yes, I'm really trying to go for that role. I got my my agent and manager aware of it. I just need that audition, man. I need the audition because I think they're gonna start shooting about 2 or 3 months, if I'm not mistaken. They got James Franco, younger brother, David playing Vanilla Ice, and everybody was saying in Deadline, all and so forth. Who's going? I'm interested to see who'll be casted the Suge Knight. So I'm praying. I promise you, if I get this role, I will be the best version of Suge Knight. I would be the best. I got him there to a T.
Well, I look forward to seeing
I
you
can
here
I can
playing
see
that.
anyone else.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
I mean, like I say, they doing up there in your area, Mentor Bruce. So, if you hear anything, let me know, man. I'll
I'm
check it
gonna
for the Oscars. Yes.
I'm gonna go look it off. I'm gonna have to sign off, guys. 3 o'clock. I gotta hit another one. But pleasure, both of you.
You too. We in touch soon. Thank
Absolutely.
you.
All right, see you guys. Love you,
Thank
Charles.
you so much.
Love you too,
Bye bye.
man.
Bye bye,
All right.
Yolanda. Bye bye, everyone else.
Bye, everyone. Thank you again for listening to Bruce and also Charles D. Clark. And I can see Charles. I can see you. It's just like when I look at you, I see Suge. I actually see Suge Knight
I'm actually growing my
without you
beard
having
out.
the shades or even seeing the person.
Yes, yes. I'm actually growing my beard out. And of course people see me with I've been lean and I've been real big and swole. So right now I'm getting back to my big and swole because when my manager and agent says, hey, with your audition, I don't have 2 or 3 months to prepare in a couple of days. This will be a speedy process. So I'm already working out, lifting heavier weights now, upping my calories, but I'm doing, of course I'm doing it with great care. To put on the quality mass that's needed because Suge Knight in his prime, he was a massive guy. He wasn't a fat boy. He had a gut on a little gut, but other than that, he
Powerlifting type of
solid.
guy.
Exactly. You're familiar with that. Exactly.
Yes.
Solid, stern, intimidation, authority. And if you look at Suge Knight, I kind of look at Suge Knight and James Avery, and I put those two auras together because Suge Knight had, even though he was known for being vicious and stuff and had unorthodox tactics in the industry, there's times we watching the interview where he has that mentor, brotherly love, and sometimes fathership love towards the passion of hip hop, the culture. And he have a lot of fans. A lot of people hate him. A lot of people love him. Me as an actor, um, I can't get personal with what people think or whatever. My whole thing is that as an actor to deliver the role. So that's where I'm at, and that's where I'm focused on, and yeah, I'm loving it.
It's an art form that you give your whole um, embodiment to, as far as being an actor. I'm not one, but seeing other actors get involved in roles and looking at those who are involved in theater,
Yes,
there's only a slight change from performance on stage to performance on the film. Where you have to kind of hold back on film just a bit, but when you're on a stage, you give so much. you're more larger and more directing your gestures on stage, and then the
Yeah.
thought process.
Well,
Okay.
that's the thing about it too. Is like Sister Johnson said about absorbing. Like right now, I'm at my uncle's house. Of course, I can't have dogs where I live at my apartment, so my dog's over here. And but I come to my uncle's house because um there's something about the scenery in the back, especially when it comes to the Suge Knight thing. The scenery, the dogs barking, because Suge had pit bulls, and I'm watching the videos. I'm looking around. I'm feeling the orbit. I mean, it's just there's certain spaces that I can really find the character, and then I have certain spaces where I go to the park. Of course, before the COVID-19, or if I'm doing a commercial, if I said it's a McDonald's commercial, I will literally go to McDonald's and sit in there to learn the lines, learn the audition. I would, you know, eat. And I don't really like McDonald's like that. I'm not really a fast food person. But I would just eat. And sometimes I might chew it up and spit it out just to, make myself like it.
Wow.
Um,
Uh,
I just like to be hands on. When I took the master class with Samuel Jackson, he was saying how to get into the character. He says a real actor who is fearless. For instance, if his role required him to play a piano, a lot of character actors would fake play it, or maybe learn one or two notes, and then the rest would be faking it. But a person that's method will learn how to play. They will
wow.
learn if
Yes.
if my character results me, let's say if my character results me to being an undertaker in the movie, I would literally call up a funeral home and ask them, "Can I come and learn and watch and see if it's you know what I mean?" I would do that. That's how, and I know it sounds kind of, wait a minute, that's real deep, but I'm willing to do that because I have to be that. I mean, people have to believe who I am on that screen. That's our job as an actor, to show that we're that actor. If my character is making Forrest Whitaker said on Empire, he said, if they don't hate my character, I'm not doing my job, because his character was meant to be hated. You know, so these are
It's
things that
true.
you have to sacrifice. You know what I mean? 80% of the time, you're not yourself. Because if you're always training, if you're always doing audition, you are preparing yourself to be other people, to live their lives, to experience their journeys. The beautiful thing about acting is somewhat you don't pay a penalty. For instance, and I told somebody last week, if somebody gets shot in a movie and when the director says cut, they live again. In the streets,
Mm.
there's no coming back. So I try to teach people, find they don't have to be know so much of acting, but for those who are into acting, because that's the platform I'm on, if they're really interested, I mentor them and show them, put the guns down, put the drugs down, put all that stuff down. Come into this world where you can, you know, at least if you play those roles, it will, you get paid for it, and everybody lives. Nobody goes to jail or prison. But also just learn the craft. If you really want, because there's a lot of great people actors out there in the streets as gangbangers. I mean, I was one, and
I
you would never,
see this a
you would
lot.
never
Yes.
know. There are people out there who's meant to be doctors and lawyers, but they're out there selling drugs, shooting each other. But deep down inside, they have the ability, the talent to be real estate agents, doctors, lawyers, directors, all of that. But they are so suppressed by the traditional system of this world of being limited. So I'm trying to break those limitations and show them.
I love what
Excuse
you
me.
said, Mr. Clark, which is very much so true. Ice-T, who is a wonderful poet, that's how he was found, because he was so poetic with his speech, and
Yeah,
that's how he was found to be getting into the acting world from that, because he was such an excellent speaker. And someone gave him that opportunity, such as there's been so many of them that have, trans over from one side of the world into the acting world, because have these hidden ability skills that they bring to a role, because it's more authentic, I think, because
well,
they have that ability
you know
to
what?
do
You
it.
bring up a great point. My mentor, and I call him family, excuse me, Uncle Ice T,
Hmm.
gangster, hip hop rapper, legend, icon, known for going against police officers. But excuse me, what people don't understand is that you're talking about the bad cops, the racist cops, and at that time, his platform was controversial, and a lot of people didn't understand where he was coming from. A lot of people did understand where he was coming from. But the one thing that made a difference was Dick Wolf saw the greatness in him. Now you take somebody who's from the streets, the gangbanging life, all that stuff, and now he is the only African American that's been on a primetime show the longest as Finn.
Wow. Wow. Ice-T himself.
20 something. Yeah. If you look at Google it, he's the only actor in the history of Hollywood that's been the black actor, African American, black, to be on a primetime show. His show, everything. Law and Order been a primetime show every season, every episode, and he's been on the longest. So when I look at him, and he told me, he says, "Elevate your mind, the rest will follow." And I honestly believe that. So I'm basically following his footsteps as well. I got so many mentors, and I don't use it freely. It's just people that I really look up to, people that really are actually part of my journey. So you look at people like Bruce and Ice-T and Taraji and Terrence, Exhibit. There's a lot of them out there, that I look up to. People that I'm inspired by, the Tyler Perrys, and all of them, the Will Packers and Kevin Hart's and The Rock. There's so many I'm inspired by, but people who actually had a hand in my career and pushed me, and it's very limited. So I'm happy and I'm blessed. And COVID-19 gave me enough time to realize my greatness. Like I mean, all you have is time to reflect back and say, you know what, I can do this different, or I can change it from this, or I can do that. And talking to God, and everybody's not, religious. I don't consider myself religious. I'm just a believer. I know God exists and I serve him. And with that being said, when you do right, you attract the right people. You and I, when we connected,
Yeah.
great minds think alike. They said the birds of the same feathers flock together. So it's a feather of greatness. And now we teach other people. Because I tell people all the time, this world is like birds that have wings, but don't even know they have them. A bird learns to fly when they see it has wings. So my job, and like your job, is, hey, you see that right there beside you? On your shoulder? That's wings. Let me show you how to fly. So that's where we're at.
Amen. And well said too. Well said. Sometimes it takes another individual seeing you from the outside to bring what you have on the inside, on the outside. And and your story is immensely speaks upon it in various ways. And it's very difficult job to be an actor because you have to, I've heard so many stories like Steve. He played a role in it was hard for him to break out of character because he always had to play the evil character, and he's a man of poetry in his music, but he said it took a while for him to break out of that role, and so it's not very an easy aspect to to find who you are within other characters and then break out of that. It's not an easy aspect to do. How can one do that? Does it always take time?
It does. It's dangerous in a way. It can be dangerous because look at I was another one of my good inspirations and brother I support, Michael B. Jordan. He had to get therapy after Killmonger. He literally locked himself in a room for majority of the time for months, away from his family, because he had to go to that dark place. Being a villain, when I did Brutus, oh man. First of all, I don't drink whiskey. Brutus was a whiskey type drinker. During that time, it was extremely cold. We did it during the wintertime. I put on my tank top, my shorts, and some boots. It was about 18 to 20-something degrees outside. It went over 22 degrees. And I went outside in my tank top, shorts, and boots. And there's woods behind my place. And I ran through the woods. And then I walked
Wow.
back. I ran so far deep and I walked back, taking the cold because Brutus said there's coldness about him. I want to feel the cold. I would go into the room, my bathroom, and turn on a red light. In the bathroom, I changed the light bulb, and I would, drink whiskey and talk to myself in the mirror to convince me that I was that evil. I was a diabolic. I went to biker bars. Some of my colleagues listened to heavy metal music. Um, there was times where, I want to feel the steam of just the pain. So I would, get mix steam, in the sink, with the hot water, let the steam hit my face and turn the heat on to change. You know what I mean? I did so much stuff to take me out of Brutus. You cannot be normal to even prepare for his character. So anything I would usually, actually, used to doing, I did the opposite. And of course, growing my beard out. Never grew my beard that long. My beard was almost a foot long, almost 12 inches out. It was right at
Wow.
11 inches. Usually I'm wearing a goatee or, I might do like a little shadow, but never like that. So, how many roles that I could have gotten that I turned down because this character was very important. I had to let people see that I can go there. And it worked. And after that, it took me about a month and a half to really get myself back together. I even told I had to keep myself away from my own daughter, because I couldn't be. Bruce wasn't a family man. He wasn't a family man. He wasn't the dad. He was ruthless. He didn't care about nothing. I mean, you saw it. It was,
Oh, that moment you were in the car and you were doing the audition in your car, and the moment you start taking breaths, that moment, um, I'm Brutus. I can't do
yes,
it again.
yes,
Wow.
yeah.
Breath. Wow. And it really, I thought, like, Brutus is one bad guy. He's one bad dude
Yo, man,
in a dark.
man.
It was character.
Yes.
Indeed. And the movie was so well shot, and the directors and
Doris
the
Dibble,
people
yes.
that were
Doris
involved.
Dibble, owner of Listen
Yes.
Productions. That's my brother. I love him. His wife, Candace, who is one heck of a producer. And of course, Wesley, who played Volkov. The whole cast.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, we're doing a sequel. Whole different storyline, though. Volkov origin. It could be 10 times better. And Brutus
Wow.
is still going to be rough, but he's coming in a more articulate way, villain style. I got some stuff up my sleeve.
That's we can't go in too deep because
Not too
of
deep, and it's a surprise. The storyline is ridiculous. And especially the different elements that we have in there. So yeah, once COVID-19, kind of get a little more better to the deeper phase, we'll start back shooting again. We did a couple of scenes right before COVID-19 came, and for the trailer. So yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing as an actor. People don't realize. They just don't. I see so many people say, "I want to be an actor and actress," and once they get a shot at it and they get in front of their camera, they choke up. When you're on a set, I ain't talking about no small set. I'm talking about a major set. You got a crew of like 45, maybe 60 people. You got all the extras. Everybody looking at you. You can't frog up. And you got some directors who would just rip you to pieces. They don't care about your feelings, your emotions, because you're wasting production time. This is what you want now. This is what you have to do. And then sometimes it takes hours. I mean, when we did the scene of the barn scene for Volkov, we was there for more than 8 hours in the cold. It was below 20 degrees. I've been on sets for almost 21 hours. Can't complain. You just have to do it. So, yeah, it's definitely a mental.
It's not a luxurious job.
Yeah,
It's not really a luxurious job. It's not. It's a job that you have to have a very, earnest working ethic to do various locations, conditions. Study. You're studying a lot. You have to know, historically what not only just the characters, but the landscape.
Yeah,
The locations of where you're at, to really get a sense of where who you are, where you are, to get the
exactly,
whole character and the feeling. It's
exactly.
my daughter, she acted a little bit too, and I saw firsthand off what it's like for theatrical actors to bond together and to really be like a family almost, and they have to not just on stage, but they have to bond outside of the stage too,
Yeah,
in order to really bring that real element to life.
yeah, and,
It's
and that's a good point.
it's
That's a good point too, because a lot of times they do. That's what table reads are for and stuff too. The chemistry, outside of that, so you have a good chemistry. Look at Taraji and Terrence. You know, um, their chemistry. Empire is like Hustle and Flow, the sequel. Think about it. Music, background, you see what I'm saying? So, yeah, it's about chemistry. But you'd be surprised at the people who um you think they get along because of the storyline of a movie or TV show, and they hate each other's guts in reality. When
I
they
hear
say cut, they they walk off. Yeah,
separate.
yes, you'd be amazed.
It's,
You'd be
it's,
amazed.
it's,
So,
it's, it's,
yeah.
yeah. Um, it's like Gone with the Wind, and you hear the backstory of Gone with the Wind,
Oh
where
my God.
she didn't like the kiss.
Yes.
It wasn't that
I think
Hollywood
the
style
latest
kiss.
thing I heard about that, what I read, is that the lady, the lead lady, was saying about Clark Gable's breath. He had
That's
wooden
the
teeth,
story.
the ditches, and she said it was you couldn't. It was just a nightmare basically. And you look at Clark
But
Gable,
it
you'll
never
think
showed on
like,
camera.
yep, exactly, yep. And he has it. He's very talented, very talented.
Oh, absolutely.
He has the
Yes.
Hollywood look. You know, he
Mm-hmm.
kind of reminded me of a George Clooney a little bit.
Yeah, I thought that was my thinking
Yes,
when we actually.
if you look at George Clooney can do he can do the biopic of it. Yes, same voice, same stature, the way he's on set. I mean, the hands in the pot. I mean, everything. But except we never heard that George Clooney had a very bad breath. So, but they say he had wooden dentures.
I've never heard it.
Yeah. So,
Mm.
you know, um, I don't know. Yeah, it's amazing what you hear. I'm not gonna say what you see on TV, what you see on movies, is not always what it seems to be behind the scenes. And I know a lot of people that you would think, oh my God, they must be real good friends in real life. Like they hate each other.
you know this is a real workplace. It's not something that you go on the red carpet and people weigh on you hand and foot. This is a real workplace. It's where people they're studying your lines out of off camera. They're coming on, they have to find how to bond with the other actor that they're in the scene with, to make it real, to make it look real and bring people in that scene. And it's not an easy thing to do.
That's a great point, because a lot of extras, when they like, oh, that celebrity he's a butthole, or he's mean, he didn't want to speak to me. They don't get it. When you got 15 lines minimum, and you have a certain deadline to be for production, we in character, we focus. You know, you got to respect the when they have time to talk to you, they will. They doing their job, because they're not trying to be extras again. You know, so a lot of people. I remember one person was like, Taraji, she didn't want to talk to me, blah. And I had to jump on them on social media. You would not talk about my sister like that. Taraji is one of the most beautiful, nicest people you can meet. But when she's in her zone, it's cookie. Her and Terrence and the rest of the cast, they carry the show. They don't have time to mingle and whatever. And like Terrence always said, are you an actor or are you a fan? Because I remember one guy kept trying to ask him for pictures. Terrence said, okay, I'll give you a picture. Then get off the set because you're a fan. You're not my colleague. You're not my actor. You're not an actor because actor we don't do that. Now maybe afterwards, they put a, but this guy kept Terrence, come on, man, get him. You mind? Okay, all right, I'll give you a picture, but it's gonna cost you. Can't get back on set. So that's the reality of life. I mean, these lines, man, it's these lines getting the character, uh, especially the emotional attachment. It's far beyond what anybody can, even dream of, and it's just, yeah, it's heavy. Some of these
real
roles
life.
are heavy.
Indeed. Everyone, this is Charles C. Clark. He's a SAG after a professional actor for many years. And he's a motivational speaker as well, and a man of Christ. And I'm very honored to have him on the platform. And everyone, hopefully you were taking notes because this is real. It happens in the perspective of an professional actor's perspective, and it's something to really take note because it is real work.
Yes.
Absolutely, Mr. Charles D. Clark. Where can people find you in your work and what you all, in what and everything that you have done for years?
Well, it's easy. You Google my name, Charles D. Clark. A lot of stuff from back years ago till now is on there. Also, my social media, Facebook is Charles D. Clark. Also on Instagram is Charles D. Clark 1980, and on Twitter is C Clark Inspire the number 7, and that's where I'm at. And feel free to hit me up, inbox me. I never forget where I come from. I can't get to every message, but I try to get to most of my as I can. If you're in something, tag me. If I can support you, that's what all about unity. I mean, a lot of people get to a certain status, and they want to be, I'm too good or whatever. But I realized one thing: without the fans, without the supporters, us actors and actors and everybody, the feminists, the directors, and everybody else, PAs, wouldn't have a job. It's the fans that the reason why when they tune in, when they buy the tickets, when they buy the DVDs, when they, all of that. That's what keep us where we at. So fans, supporters, followers, I love them, and I'm just grateful. Yeah,
Absolutely. That's my brother in Christ, Brother Charles.
always.
Indeed. You know it. Charles, thank you so much for coming onto this platform. You really gave a lot of motivation to the viewers, and gave a lot of great perspective, professional actor. And I can't wait to see the second half of Roll Call because I will be there.
Yes.
Brother Charles, I will be there.
Awesome.
I am a Volkov fan, and by the way, I want to also insert this that I believe, hopefully, if I'm seeing this correctly, it is a comic book, right? There is a comic book series attached to Volkov.
Yes, yes, yep. And we're working on that now to advance it. Now we have a couple of people that we're attached to talking about doing. I mean, it could be an animated series. You never know. The Volkov got so many things to it. The Walking Dead has been a trilogy of just legendary, greatness. So we're trying to be the next Walking Dead, so to speak. Volkov. Yep.
Wow. I know an actress, she's a stunt actress, her Shalita Boxey,
Okay.
has been on the set, and she does the stunt work, and ouch.
Yes.
That's another whole another aspect of being an actor, of being
Exactly.
in the industry itself. But I'm going to be there for the second half of Volcom because I'm a fan now. So,
There you go.
Mr. Charles, and hopefully I can have you back again.
Of course.
For the next work, because you really gave a lot of insight to a lot of
With off the dogs. They just wanted to be their voice attention about the dogs. But yeah, I'm glad to. Anything that you attach to, just let me know.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Charles, thank you so much for being in attendance today for the workshop. And viewers, follow Charles D. Clark, a SAG after professional actor, and and stay in touch with Charles because he's a wonderful man of God. And
Thank you.
Keep up the walk with Jesus.
Likewise. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Charles.
Anytime.
And up next, we do have someone up next, and his name is Shefik who is another brilliant professional in the industry of entertainment. And I want everyone to welcome
Hi.
Mr. Sheffick. Mr. Sheffick, hello.
Hi.
It's a pleasure to have you.
Mhm.
Uh, and you have been doing a lot of brilliant work in the industry as well, and you're also kind of like a mentor to many people as well.
Yes.
Um, and you do a lot when it comes to behind the camera, and as well as uplifting those who need more knowledge to understand the industry as it is. Chef.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
you were a part of a hip hop event this past couple of days, and it was very exciting. It was in the press too, of what they're doing. I think they're doing a lot as far as being innovative in in the industry of change with the LGBTQ. Is this correct?
Yeah, so
Sheffick.
let me talk about the festival. It's called the Hip Hop Film Festival. And this year is the 5th year of the festival. The founder is C.R. Capers. She's someone I actually went to college with, so I've known her for a number of years now. And what happens every year, its headquarters in Harlem, New York. And the first weekend of August, we actually go there and do activities where hundreds of filmmakers from all around the world come and they represent their culture. They represent the culture of hip hop in general too, and they show their genres of film. And it's not just about hip hop films. It's not about rap films. It's about people who grew up in the culture, how they represent that experience and a vision of that being represented in Hollywood, because there's oftentimes they're not being represented. They're not getting the foot in the door. So we give them resources all throughout the year. So actually the organization is called Harlem Film House, which is a nonprofit organization. And all throughout the year, they host seminars. They host a thing called Act Up, where they have screenwriters. They come in, actually perform. They have a pool of actors that perform some of their pages of the scripts, get feedback. And then, of course, we have the main festival, as I mentioned, in New York, where we have people who get acquisition deals. We have BET is on hand to give acquisition deals. We have Revolt TV is a good sponsor of ours, and a number of other companies. Theo Rossi is an actor. He has his own production company. And, and then we also travel around the world. So this year we've gone to like probably 5 different countries. Typically, when it's not COVID, we actually go there in person. We partner with various universities and embassies in those countries. But this year we did it online. And so I'm sort of the face of the filmmaker interviews. So all the interviews that happen with the filmmakers have to go through me as far as getting their media presence for the festival itself. So if it was in person, I literally interview like 200 to 300 people, in person. But this year I've interviewed about 100 so far online, and it's a new series we started online. It's called Conversations from the Culture, and you could actually view archives of it at 247films.tv. That's a streaming service for the festival, and that's there. And then also we added another segment this year called Master Ciphers, which I moderated one of the ciphers, and it was the LGBTQ, the culture, and the film. So we gathered various peers and people that represented that sort of culture and industry, and we had a discussion about that. So we had Christopher Donaldson, who's the vice president of Here TV, and Here Media in general, which is like a wide variety of content on cable television, things like that. We have Bruce Cohen, who was an Academy Award winner for the film American Beauty of 1999. He's also been, and actually that won Best Picture too, and also a couple other awards. And then he's also been nominated 2 more times for Best Picture for other films. So he's also one of our board members for the Harlem Film House and the film festival in general. So he's a good partner and someone we have a good alliance with. And then some of the other people, we had Kareem Ferguson, who's an actor. And he actually has this film out called Gay Baby. And he acted, produced, and directed, did it all himself, independent route. And then he's also been on a number of network television shows on NBC and a number of other places. And then finally, we have a Peppermint, who's a transgender activist. Also, she's a finalist from RuPaul's Drag Race. She's a world-renowned performer. She's traveled all around the world, and she's based here in New York, so she's well-known, obviously, here in New York. You've seen her on TV shows such as FX's Pose, NBC's Saturday Night Live, whole host of things. ABC's Ugly Betty. So she's been around for a number of years, and so we had a very good discussion about what it means to represent the culture. Mm-hmm.
Oh, amazing, amazing. And I love it. They made it, more not just only in entertainment and film, but also about culture, about gathering together as a group and missing it. And because right now it is about Black Lives Matter. You have the LGBTQ coming out more than ever in discussions about acceptance, and this is I love the way they're doing it and pioneering that, and it's amazing that you're a part of that too,
Yeah.
because you have acknowledged it.
Yeah, I've been with part of the
You
festival,
know,
as I mentioned. It's been
now,
5 years for the festival. I've been with them since day one, showing my support and media activities, things like that. So,
um, and you do so much more than that. You're very humble, Mr. Chef.
I stay busy. So, I mean, that's all I did this weekend, this past weekend. But
Wow.
getting ready for my next
Um,
event, which is actually coincidentally next weekend, and because every year I support autism awareness, and what we do for that, we have an event called Strut, and I'm the master of ceremonies for the event, which happens in person. But obviously, again, with COVID, we're not doing it like we used to. But this is like the 4th year of the event. And this year, we're going to actually do a live broadcast. So the founders of the event, their names are Alyssa Lego and Amanda Wachowski. They're good friends themselves, and they represent their platforms because they actually come from the pageant systems. Alyssa is actually a title holder from a Miss America organization. Amanda is also a title holder from another organization. So they've got together a lot of their peers that are in those various systems of various ages too. So we're talking young girls, 7 years old on up to 18 years old, and we support them in their endeavors. So we actually have a fashion show event in person that we usually have every year. And, Amanda and Alyssa also have their own fashion line called Brand A. So that's always like a featured segment in the fashion show. And they have various sponsors that come in and we host that for them. And then the models themselves are the people from the various pageant systems, from the tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. They come from all over, they come support, and it's a really good activity for them. And overall, it's a fundraiser for autism awareness, because the girls themselves have a nonprofit organization called the Morgan Marie Michael Foundation. And that's a nonprofit, 501c. And what they do is they raise funds and they give the money towards appliances for people who are on the autism spectrum, such as iPads. There's special kind of apps that keeps the kids engaged, who have autism. So it's things like that, and they hand deliver to them in person, so they get to engage with these people, in a real intimate level, and Alyssa herself, her brother actually has autism. So this is one of the main reasons why she started this initiative and everything, to help her brother, and his name is Michael, and hence the name from the foundation itself. So it's very interesting. So this coming Saturday, we're doing a live broadcast, and we're actually going to do a mini version of what we would do. Obviously due to COVID, we can't have all these people here in person. So we're going to do a small version of it, and we're going to see how that goes in live broadcast. So, we're going to start promoting that very soon. Mm-hmm.
This is wonderful, to doing something even more so for autism, because it's a wide spectrum. It's not just, many people see it as the extreme side of autism, but and then it's very rare you see the low spectrum of autism,
Right.
and it's almost like they have to keep things the same. It has to be the same every time, and to really make sure that they're more secure around their surroundings and so forth. So and there's so much more to to this particular disorder for autism. So I'm very I'm going to look this up.
Yeah, and if anyone's
after
interested, they can go to the Facebook page. It's Shop Sell Strut. So those 3 words, Shop Sell Strut, is the Facebook page. It has all information about our events and everything like that too.
Amazing, amazing. And of course yourself, you're on the board for Forbes, the Forbes Council. as well. And you also sit on the board for is it the Emmys or Grammys? I want to make sure I have
Well,
that
just to
correct.
clarify, I'm an official member of the Ford's Technology Council. So that's the first thing. It's not a board; it's a council, and what it is, it's a consortium of people who work in technology. It's a sort of an invite-only situation, first of all, and it is set by Forbes, the Forbes magazine and their branding. So it's C-level executives, high-level people in technology who've achieved a certain amount of success, things like that. And what we do is we had networking sessions. We also are able to write for Forbes directly. So I am considered a contributor for Forbes, for that. And we have our means where, again, it's a way for people at that level to sort of network among themselves and find creative ways to give advice back to people in the community too. So whether it's writing for Forbes, as I mentioned, writing articles for them, or finding other ways to network, we have various resources that we give out and things like that. So that's the first thing. The other thing, I am a board member at Rutgers University, which is based in New Jersey. So they have the Customer Experience Advisory Board. So I'm a member of that as a board member. And what it is, it's an ongoing curriculum that I help give input, for people who may be pursuing that. It could be professionals who are furthering their career. It could be people in their graduate studies, that sort of thing. So the group of us help to decide what is being taught to the students, people that join this class. So we ourselves are professionals who work in customer experience. We work in various marketing, or technology fields, things of that nature. So we have an ongoing means to say, here, real world practices, to give back to the university and say, this is how you really should shape, your course, because we're actually living it. And these are the people we may want to hire. So follow some of our advice, from that. And then lastly, you mentioned the Emmys. So I'm a member of both the Television Academy, which handles the Primetime Emmy Awards, and that's based in Los Angeles. And naturally, Primetime Emmy Awards, they cover the entire country. And so I'm a member of that. And I'm also a member of the New York Emmy Awards, which is based here, obviously, in New York City, which is primarily handle regional Emmy Awards as well as the daytime Emmy Awards. So people may not realize there's a distinction between the various companies that handle the Emmys, because historically there was sort of only one company that handled it. And over time, I think like 60s and 70s, they kind of split. So then they could each have their own distinct Emmys categories and things like that, such as primetime and daytime Emmys, but they still shared the trademark. So whether you win an Emmy, regardless of what sector, even if it's regional, it's still an Emmy. It's still that prestige and things like that. It's still things like that. But there are different ways that you type of win the Emmy. Whereas the daytime Emmy Awards, it might have a different judging procedure. The regional Emmy Awards has a different judging procedure, and it's vice versa for the primetime Emmys. And then also there's another Emmy Awards company called the International Emmy Awards. And as the name suggests, it's primarily just for international productions, foreign language productions, things like that in television. So when you submit yourself for the Emmys, you actually have to be a part of each organization, depending on where you want to participate in. So you could theoretically, submit yourself if you don't want to actually be a member, but you pay a higher fee because, it's submission fees. All these companies, even the Grammys, Oscars, all that kind of stuff, there's always some submission fee to submit, But with the Emmys in particular, as I mentioned, there's different criteria that you have to meet because not everybody is allowed to be a member, first of all. There's a procedure. You have to have a certain amount of credits in the industry. You have to have legitimate credits. So you just can't, for example, you just can't have a YouTube show. And then even if you have 1,000 episodes of YouTube, that's not qualifying you to be a member of the Emmys organization. There's a certain criteria, and you have to show that in a professional manner because it also depends on what track you want to go in. So for me, for the Television Academy, I'm actually in a producer's track, which means I'm in the same, peer group as producers of all these, hit shows or everything like that. And once you're in that peer group, then there's resources that they give us to help out, because we always have networking sessions. We have Q&A sessions with directors and producers, executive producers of many hit shows, people behind the scenes. So we get to know them on a more, personal level, and get to get their expertise. But again, it's a procedure. So, fortunately with me, I was able to get into both, because I actually have my own show that I do. It's called Sheffic Presents a Vocation, which is like it's a radio show first and foremost, and it's currently syndicated on 23 radio stations around the country, all AM FM stations. And then I have the video series that goes along with it, because all the guests are required to shoot on video with me, and it's all segments. So I have various partnership deals with Amazon, and also like actual physical locations. I'm in like 20 states around the United States, such as like Dunkin' Donuts and restaurants, bars. There's a Mohegan Sun Casino here in Connecticut. There's all sorts of doctor's offices, things like that. So it's like waiting rooms. All these places have waiting rooms and lobbies, and they always have TV screens. So my distribution network allows me to be on those screens, on those private networks also. So it's a lot of wide coverage that I have, naturally, and then I have the podcast version of it. So I'm on iHeartRadio, I'm on Apple, I have deals with Google, and so it goes on and on, worldwide that I have.
So you have to really kind of understand the legalities, of course, with having those different contracts. Is that right, Sheffic?
Yeah. It's you have to understand also each country has their own sort of guidelines, and not only legal guidelines but cultural guidelines. Because something that may be relevant or marketable in the United States may not be as marketable as is in another foreign country. Case in point, there's a lot of films, and obviously all films have like or posters, that they do, the film posters, things like that. Sometimes what they do is they have different versions of the posters. So they have one for the United States, they have another one for another country, and it's not just about the lettering and obviously the language barrier. It's the imagery, because some countries, for example, may have different religious beliefs, whereas the United States may be more open. So something that may seem to be okay in the United States may not be okay for them. Not to say that the product itself is wrongful in a sense, but you have to be respectful of the cultures that you're marketing to, and you have to understand there's different needs per country. So there are certain countries that are compatible with us, like United Kingdom, places like that, because we were colonized in a sense from that. But that mentality has to come through. So when marketing campaigns are done, people have to think on a worldwide level, not just United States, because not everything works there, and we shouldn't assume that it's going to work, because it'll be wrongful of us to not take into considerations people's other cultures and guidelines and things like that. So.
Like colors, for instance, I believe in certain countries, using the color red is signifies of something very negative, and then the color yellow, and certain hand gestures also can come across either positive or negative too. So it's I love that you brought that case in point to the
and the other side of it too, when you mention colors, it's not just about colors from the cultural aspect, but from a psychological aspect too. So there's a whole psychology about colors and color schemes, even on websites that you may visit every day, movie posters, even magazines. So I'll take magazines as an example. I'm talking print magazines. If you may notice, typically the cover of print magazines, the lettering are typically red or yellow, as far as the main headlines and things like that. There's a psychology behind that, where more red is more bold and things like that. It stands out. It makes the brain perceive a certain kind of way. Let's take, for example, like a website. the logo of a company or website or the look and feel, typically, if you see it in blue, as an example, that tends to mean they're more trustworthy. So,
Like Facebook.
yeah, Facebook, yes. It's a psychology behind that. Healthcare companies are typically more blue. You know, some businesses
That's right.
may be more blue. That's not to say that the company themselves are trustworthy. Because that's a whole other discussion. It's about the psychology and the perception. When you view something, your mind has a perception on that, and then so that what grabs people in. You know, whereas if you have the color yellow, some people may stay away from yellow from certain situations because yellow tends to invoke stress in people. Because there's an old saying.
Oh wow.
Yeah, there's an old saying that you should never paint your kitchen yellow. So if you ever go house shopping, you may notice that the kitchens are never yellow, because the kitchen, the kitchen is considered a family center, outside of the living room, of course, but everyone goes to the kitchen. Everyone in the house always has to go to the kitchen for some reason, you know? And typically there's kitchens that have a table in there where they have their meals, you know, and things like that, family meals. So they tend not to have yellow in the kitchen because it invokes stress. You don't want to invoke stress, psychological stress, when first of all, people are cooking. Even if you're by yourself, you have the stress of cooking all day long and all that, you know, that invokes the stress. You don't want to have your kids in there because maybe you come home from a bad day at work and you want to leave your work at work. You don't want to have that yellow invoke that in front of your children too, just by seeing the color yellow and you're not knowing where that's coming from. So that's where it's those kind of colors. But again, yellow may work on a print magazine, depending on the headline that they want to invoke, because maybe they want to invoke stress for you. Because let's say example could be they want to invoke panic. National Enquirer has a headline that says such and such celebrity is going through this divorce, and that's your favorite celebrity, so you get stressed out. Like, you know, of course they're going to put that in yellow. You know, so it depends. You know, so again, there's a whole study on that, and obviously not only the colors but also the shapes of logos are all different. So there's a whole science to that, and a study for all that that's covered in all entertainment fields. You know, it's marketing ploys. You know, and it goes down to an intricate level when you deal with cereals. You know, just walk down the grocery store aisle of the cereal aisle, and you'll see the ones that contain more sugar or more eye level for kids who are maybe 4 feet tall, things like that. So we're talking like the top 2 or 3 shelves at most. It's not going to be above them. You know, the more healthier ones are going to be above because the adults could carry that, right? But you got to think about the kids are at that level. Yeah. So the sugar ones are going to be at eye level for them, right? And then the kind of color schemes that are on those boxes and the shapes of the logos and things like that correspond to things that are more kid-friendly and things like that. You know, so that's the perfect example. And that's why they have a whole, basically some big grocery stores have a whole entire aisle of just cereal. And you never tend to see cereal on opposite sides of the aisle. Because, you know, you have the left and right side of the aisle, right? You never see it on both sides. Yes. It's always on one side. Because kids' attention span is not going to keep turning back and forth. But if you look closely enough, they will have it where, again, the adult cereal will be up there. If you turn around, you see the oatmeal. You know, that's what you would usually see. Yeah.
True. This is marketing 101, everyone. So, you know, stay tuned and listen. Yeah. Marketing 101, because this is it every day. You know, as they would say, that signs and symbols, we go, you know, the world runs by signs and symbols. You know, if we really take a stand back and look at our traffic lights, signs, and lettering, fonts, and you know, we tend to gravitate towards those particular things because this is how we are indoctrinated to you know, extend our, you know, attention span too. And the marketing agencies know that because they have psychologists that deal in that specific area. Yeah. That they go and get their information from. So this
Yeah.
is a marketing 101, everyone.
Yeah, and I tell you, marketing plans are very intricate. They're dozens of pages long, and they go into detail about how to actually market a person and what they should dress and things like that. And it's quite interesting. Over the years, like I started in my professional career in the music business as a music publicist, in the late 90s. And right out the gate, I was fortunate to work with a lot of, well-known artists, such as like Dionne Warwick and the Isley Brothers and Melba Moore, a lot of icons in the industry, and also worked with Island Records in general. And they had a division called Island Black Music at the time. And, the Isley Brothers were signed to the label, Kelly Price was signed, and then Drew Hill in particular. So, Drew Hill, they've gone on to have a considerable amount of success and platinum success. So I worked with them since day one for their first album, things like that. So we had marketing plans, written up and about them, about how they should dress. So if you see early on in their videos, they had a certain look, and that's with any artist, it's the same kind of thing. But
Wearing red,
yeah,
I think.
yeah. But the case in point here is that we used an example of George Michael as an example, because if people are familiar with George Michael's history, he started with the group Wham, which is him and another gentleman in the early 80s.
I remember.
Yeah. So they had obviously a very popish look, back then. All right.
Clean white clothes. Yes.
Right. When George Michael went solo, the first thing he did, first of all, they had him do a duet with Aretha Franklin. That was the first thing they did. Yeah. And that was very successful. And there was a thing called Blue Eyed Soul. So he was part of that, and Michael McDonald, all these kind of, people like that. And they use that song as a catalyst to kind of cross them over, first of all, into the Black audience to accept. Because it's sort of Aretha Franklin's stamp, the saying, I'm the queen of soul. I endorse this artist as someone who can do R&B, because there's a distinction of people who want to celebrate the culture, appreciate, acknowledge the Black culture, but there's the other side of it too, where people take advantage of it and they want to just, be what we call culture vultures in a sense. And so in that aspect, the marketing plan was partly to say, okay, we want Aretha Franklin, who people revered, to say that if she endorses it, then it might be okay. The plan worked. The other side of it is, okay, how do we get people to accept George Michael's image? Because his image wasn't conducive to an R&B singer or people of that era kind of thing, his previous Wham image. So part of the marketing plan that they wrote was literally saying, first of all, let's have him wear a scruffy beard, which is what he did in the Faith video. That's the main thing. The next thing he did was have him wear jeans with boots on, because that gave him a more industrial look, for people who are more blue collar kind of thing. And then he had the jacket on, which gave him that little rock feel about it. So it's a combination of all these things. And you see it's a reversal of what he had in several years ago in Wham, as compared to Faith and his debut album, for Sony and like that. It's an introduction because it kind of toughens him up. It's the perception that he's a little tough now. Yeah. All right. So in the case of point with Drew Hill, there's similar things. Not to say that we copied all these things, but it's like those are the kind of discussions we have, because depending on what you're wearing, that's the perception. Depending on the songs, things like that, what audience we want to do and what audience we want to cater. Another popular example that did it was Michael Jackson. When he came with the Bad album, which is around the same year or so as George Michael. Michael Jackson came out with his Bad outfit, wearing buckles everywhere. Had this image that he's tougher now.
That's dangerous.
That was quite intentional because, again, with the boots, if you wear boots, you win. So, but it was intentional.
That's a mindset.
Yeah, and he's calling his album Bad. And obviously with the video Bad, he's in the subway acting tough, and incorporating hip hop styling and b-boy dancing and things like that. But it's that imagery and perception, and it worked for them. It worked, but there's a lot of thought into that goes into that. But the other side of it is that even though it may be successful, the artists themselves may not appreciate, or they may not want to do those things. So again, with the George Michael example, his very next album, he denounced that image that was presented on him. And if you remember the song Freedom 90? Yeah.
Freedom, yes.
Yes.
I remember.
If you remember, when he was promoting that second album that he had, he refused to appear in any of his videos.
Simply I remember that it was the models, and the models were appearing in a lot of videos, and it started a fad, I think, because another gentleman from England did something similar to that, but he was in the video.
Yeah, but this wasn't because of a fad. It's because George Michael refused to be in the videos. So he sued Sony for all these kind of things. He wanted to get out of his contract. So a lot of back and forth litigation going on. But if you remember that video for Freedom, he took that same jacket that he wore in Faith and he burned it. You know, the models burned it on camera. You know, the lyrics of the song actually say that he's denouncing that image. You know, literally saying, the lyrics say something like, if you shake your ass, they notice fast. The boys of MTV, he didn't want that image. So his subsequent albums, if you listen to the entirety of his albums, he always has jazz selections in his albums, you know, or jazz influenced songs, because that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to do more proper songs that were not necessarily just pop. He could do the pop songs here and there, but he wanted to have his say as an artist where he could say he's not just about some gimmick or anything like that. Because the Faith album, I think it sold like 15 million records just in the US alone. That set a standard in his trajectory for him to be a pop star for the rest of his life. But at the same time, he was forced upon doing these things, imagery. And he went along with it because, you know, you're early on in your career, you don't know what your career could bestow. So you have to go along with certain things. But when they keep feeding you that information and say, you have to keep doing this, you have to keep doing that, and it gets to them. And that's what happened to George Michael, where to the point where he refuses to be in the videos, and he could have that say now because he's already sold 50 million records. So he has some say to say, okay, I'm not going to do such and such, you know. Whereas Michael Jackson, he wanted that image. It worked for him. When Michael Jackson doesn't appear in the video, he's doing it for a reason to say, I'm doing it because I'm too famous now, and I don't want my fame or the face of my fame to take away from the lyrics of the song. Like Man in the Mirror from the same album. He refused to appear in a Man in the Mirror video because he felt that video and that song is too important for people not to take listen to you know, they need to take heed of what the message says. That's why his images of, you know, Martin Luther King, all these civil rights leaders, leaders from all around the world for civil rights, all these kind of things for different causes, you know, and it's in black and white. You know, there's a lot of imagery, powerful imagery, things like that. Because he even said, if he appears in that video, people are gonna just remember what he wore or how he looked and they're gonna miss the point of the message. So he's done that a couple of times with other videos, things like that, especially with the most important messages that he's had. You know.
Amazing. You know, it's very significant. It's very symbolic, and I think we sometimes forget that there's a lot of symbolism in music that goes along with how we interpret it and how we, you know, digest lyrics, and how we remember the music. Like, you know, with Janet Jackson, she also did some of the similar things. You know, she wasn't the sweet pop princess. You know, she wanted to, you know, do away with her image. So, you know, she actually went very sultry, very and changed the colors of which she wore to black, and really, you know, signified, you know, with her song Control, you know, because she was, I think in her lyrics she was saying, I'm taking control of my career, and I'm actually separating myself from, was it Jimmy Jam?
No. I think actually, just to clarify, what really happened is Janet Jackson had a couple albums out before Control. It wasn't successful. It was, you know, moderate things and things like that. And she was in that phase where she was already finished with Good Times TV show as an actress. She was already over, or in that mixture of, she made an appearance, you know, as a supporting cast member on Different Strokes, you know, played, you know, Todd Bridges' girlfriend, you know, the character. on there. Charlene was her name on the character. She also appeared on Fame, where she was a character on Fame. So she was in that transition where she was migrating off of the TV shows because they were ending, and then starting her career. Her first albums weren't successful because of that. Her manager at the time was Joe Jackson, the Jacksons' patriarch. So he managed all the Jacksons, the Jackson 5, Latoya Jackson, everybody. He had that control. It was well documented, his control over the kids, things like that. So at that point in her life, she wanted to make a statement because she was at that age, becoming into a woman kind of thing. So she wanted to say, this is my own voice. So the Control album is a statement not only about her presence as an artist, but it's a statement to her father saying, you do not have control over me, in that aspect and everything like that. Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis came in as producers for that album too. So it was also a statement for a change in sound. First two albums, they weren't a part of. But the reason they were part of the third album is because they were signed to the same label. Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis were already on A&M Records as producers, doing other things with other people. So the owner of the label said, okay, here's an artist, maybe you could do something with her. And obviously they were able to, and they went to Minneapolis, home of Prince, and they got the sort of Prince's sound because Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis came from Prince's stable to begin with, from the time.
It's a very interesting story in itself.
Yeah. They were members of the time, and Prince fired them for being late, and things like that. So, but they remain close and things like that. But then, if you notice the Control album, her image, she was still very shy. She was very self-contained in there because she hasn't even fully grown into herself. This is her first endeavor kind of thing. So all of her videos, she's wearing a lot of clothing, long sleeve clothing, button up at the top, things like that. And from head to toe, all of that. When the second album came out, the subsequent album, Rhythm Nation, she decided to have a message with that. So it's a concept album. All the videos are black and white, basically, majority of them. She still is in that clothing where she's buttoned up. However, it's all black. I mean, there's a couple of videos later on, but the initial concept was all black, and it's a message in the music, in the lyrics, things like that. It's a very conscious album. And actually that album, the concept for the choreography, she got from Michael Jackson. Because Michael Jackson was on the cusp of deciding his next choreography and dance moves after Bad. So he decided he was going to do the military style of dancing next, which he didn't do too much later. Oh. So Janet went to Michael and said, I really like what you're doing, because obviously he's their brother and sister, so she's seen stuff that he could do. So she's like, oh, let me borrow your military style of dancing. So he was gracious to say, okay, go ahead and do it. So that's why you had Rhythm Nation, where it's kind of staccato dancing and really pinpoint thing. Military. She got that idea from Michael Jackson. That worked very well from her. But as you can see, Michael Jackson's album was Dangerous. That came right after that. He didn't have the military style of dancing there. It was ethnic dancing that he had in black and white, all sorts of other kind of dancing. It wasn't until his next album, History, in 1995, that the whole concept was about military. Wow. Because by then he transitioned fully into military clothing, because he always liked military. That's why you always see him wearing this military clothing. The whole king of pop, image. It's wearing that. Even the marketing for History, if you remember that, it was unprecedented, where they actually had commercials playing in movie theaters, which is unheard of. They never did that before in history, where they actually had 30 seconds, not even 30 seconds, it was full 1 minute, commercials about an album coming out. Not even talking about the songs on the album, not even saying who produced it, who worked on it. It's just Michael Jackson with a battalion of soldiers, in this mock country or whatever, and they have and they have these really giant size statues of Michael coming in on barges of boats and everything to these countries, and everyone's helicopters everywhere, all this kind of stuff, and It was unprecedented. They spent tens of millions of dollars on a campaign, and it just says Michael Jackson history. That's what it says. And of course it's a movie theater, so you can imagine you're in a movie theater, you're used to seeing trailers from films. All of a sudden you see Michael Jackson pop up, and it's a bit theatrical kind of thing to promote an album. And people may not realize what those statues were actually real. Those were real giant-sized statues. We're talking, I forgot the exact length, but it was like 30 feet and all this kind of stuff. It's really insane height. And there was, I think, about 6 or 7 of them. And they actually were shipped to various countries in Europe and all this kind of stuff. And I think to date, they actually recently took them down a few years ago, but they were up there for a good amount of years, and they were really insane things. So they were real statues that they put up in that imagery, and so we're talking about marketing here and all that and marketing strategy, but that was an unprecedented marketing strategy because he was trying to combat obviously his dealings with his lawsuits and things like that. So he's making a statement about his history and legacy, things like that. So they went all out for that, Mm-hmm.
Amazing marketing too. Who would have thought of putting an advertisement in a movie theater where people watch movies? But
yeah,
it really worked.
Yeah, it worked.
Really worked.
And because of that precedent, you can go to movie theaters today and you see all kinds of things because the whole system has changed. Because it's not just about movie trailers anymore. I could go to a movie theater and I would sometimes see ads for real estate agents, local real estate agents or pizza places, because there's change now because they figured out it's a way to make revenue. Because if you're just playing the trailer, you're really only playing the trailer of the theater of the movie that's associated with that studio. Because typically if you go to a theater, that one theater is typically not allowed to play trailers for competing studios. So it's usually studios who are affiliated. And studios have various subsidiaries to make it seem like it's not them. So like Disney, they have Touchstone Pictures, which is like the adult version of it. They have, all these kind of divisions and things like that. So it's not just saying Disney, same thing with Universal Pictures, all these kind of studios, they have subsidiaries, they have, all these kind of things, and, you never see a film that's competing with everything because it makes sense because, you want that theater to sell out and help the company as a whole, So to have auxiliary income, you have local people such as real estate agents, pizza places, restaurants, doctor's offices, whoever, not to say they had the big full trailer or whatever. It's just a quick post business card type of, flash on screen, pay $100, pay $200. You see it for 10 seconds, 15 seconds and all that. That's a quick way to have revenue. And they're playing that not as during the trailers, because the trailers only happen when the lights go down and the movie's starting. So they're playing this while people are coming in. So you could come in half an hour before the movie starts where there's no trailers on screen anyway. So this is the way to monetize thing that's not a conflict of interest with the film that you're watching and to monetize. And typically that becomes successful because then you're helping out the local people because, trailers are not local. Trailers are, nationwide products in a sense. But the marketing for the, these flash messages, things like that, they're for the local people. And it's for people for small businesses because otherwise small businesses may not have a way to tap into the audience that's relevant, So, and it could work because if people in the movie theater, yes, it may work for the people who are, real estate agents, but people who are acting coaches, that would make sense for them to do that. Especially if the film is a drama or comedy film, you have aspiring actors or people who go to these films because they enjoy the work of that particular actor. Maybe they enjoy Tom Hanks and they want to reach his level as a drama, kind of artistic person. So they go him because they watch the movie and they study his nuances and things like that to kind of get that. So it makes sense. Have a marketing person who's from an acting coach to say, flash across the screen, I teach drama and all that, and make it relevant. To say, I teach in the style of Tom Hanks, or if you're comedy, I teach in the style of Kevin Hart, I could teach you stand-up comedy, or sitcom comedy, because there's a different.
Regardless, are you listening?
Yeah, exactly. So
The same.
it's different means to not only help the theaters monetize it, but it's other means where you could reach other audiences, people that would most likely have a greater interest in your ad. And then to top it all off, these are people who are not going anywhere, because you had them stuck in the theater. They're sitting in the screen, right in front of the screen. They could only leave to go to the bathroom, maybe restroom, or get popcorn or whatever. But otherwise, they're sitting there. Typically, they're sitting there with their entire family. So if you're at home with your TV, you could obviously commercials come on, use your remote, and just go back and forth between channel surfing. You can't do that in a movie theater. So you're forced to watch.
No.
You're forced to watch the ad. So it's things that people need to understand. That marketing strategy works, for that, and it's cost effective, because you're dealing with the theater itself. Because you could have your ad run in AMC theaters, as an example, but you're dealing with that local, that one, division of it. You don't have to call up corporate office and all that. You're just dealing with that one location. So the rates are cost effective.
This is very true.
Yeah. So that makes it
very true.
Yeah. Because when you're dealing with that one location, or you can pick a couple in your same, radius or whatever. But the point is, you're dealing with that personal level, because you could just go there in person when COVID's over, or whatever. You go there in person, and you could talk to the manager and have that one-on-one discussion, and you could actually see how it works. Because you could go to the movie. You go into the movie anyway. You might as well see what kind of ads are running and people's reaction, because you could literally just sit in the very back. It's running, and you can see everybody. Are they really looking at the screen? Are they turning away, and things like that? And you could gauge to see what works best, because you could come to find, we gave it like a Tom movie as an example, Tom Hanks movie as an example, but it may not work necessarily if it's an animated film, because maybe the kids are there, the younger kids, and you're dealing with your young kids. You don't have time to look at the screen, because you want to make sure that your kids are not, running away or doing something bad or throwing popcorn everywhere. So maybe it may not work there, but it depends. But if you're a local toy store or something, or it may work there, because, they're gonna see, So it all depends, but you have to really analyze that marketing strategy. But it gives you the opportunity to be there in person, because if you buy those national ads, you don't have an effective means to monitor it as the way you would like this, because you can physically go there. And if you want, you could even talk to some of the people, someone sitting next to you. Hey, did you like that ad? And they're like, no, too much yellow in it, so it depends.
It's a relaxing atmosphere too.
Yeah.
You're in the movie theater. The lights are kind of low, and you have a neighbor next to you. They're already casually, relaxed, and you have a relaxing conversation.
Right.
So what they're thinking.
Yeah.
That's very, that's a very unique approach.
Yeah.
That maybe others have not thought of.
Yeah.
Now,
I'll say, especially when the movie theaters open again, they're going to have to find even more means to monetize, because they're not going to be able to fill the seats the way they used to because of social distancing, things like that. Everything's going to change. Yeah. So this could be another way that they're going to push even harder to get that monetization on the screen, because all they have left is a screen. If they can't get it by filling the seats or by concession, all they have left is that screen. How can they sell more real estate on that screen? So this is one of the ways.
Interesting. That is a very interesting concept. I hope everyone was taking notes, listening to Shefik, because that was a great approach for marketing in the entertainment industry. And very true too, because I've actually talked to those who are in administration of theater, and they'll often will be more relaxed to get into that type of conversation about advertisement, because I think the world runs on advertisement, I think, as far as the media and grabbing attention to the newest product on the scene, and I think, back in those days, I think they had a really, really great approach with Michael Jackson, and having something like History to pop on the movie screen, and everyone was right there. No one could move. Michael was on the screen. So, but that's marketing. That was marketing 101 and a little bit advanced too.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about, finding sponsorship sponsorship funding for films, such as small businesses, and going and proposing to a small business and asking them, if you were to fund my film or sponsor my film, I could, find a few scenes to add your product to the big screen. What are your thoughts about that? Would that be a good?
Well,
Has it been done before?
it depends on what you're talking about when you say sponsorship, because that connotation of sponsorship could mean product sponsorship. Because that's another way to gain revenue that may not require equity in the film, because there's a difference between someone like an executive producer giving you money to fund the project, and then they receive money in the back end or however you structure the deal. That's one way to go. The other way, the connotation you might suggest here is sponsorship, which means product sponsorship, which means it's a way for advertisers to have their product within your product. Because typically, if you're like in a TV show, there's obviously advertising slots, right? But in between the show, when the show is actually broadcast, you could have a product from a sponsor in a scene. One of the most famous examples I give you is the show Seinfeld, right? If you look very closely, for the entire run of the entire show, they were on like 9 years, Jerry Seinfeld's character, in his living room, on the far side of the wall where the window is, he always has a desk. And there's always a computer at the desk, right? If you notice the computer, it's an Apple computer, right? So that suggests that Apple is sponsoring it, because nothing's for random, right? When you're dealing with TV and film. Because if you have the wrong product there or logos or whatever, you could potentially get sued if they don't like your product. So everything there is purposeful, and you hire props teams and all that. So someone intentionally placed something there, typically, especially when you're dealing with big productions, nothing by mistake. So, but if you look closely over the course of those 9 years, you'll see that the Apple version changed too. Corresponds with the new Apple releases too. So you had the new iMac, because we're talking like the 90s also. So you had the older one, the box-looking one. He had the iMac later with the colors and all the kind of stuff. And you'll see. But you look at past episodes and reruns, and you'll see. But it's never him saying, "Oh, I like Apple computers." You never actually see him on the computer. So he has a computer there, but there's no one episode I can recall that he actually gone to that desk and sat at a computer or using a computer. So we don't even know if Seinfeld knows how to use a computer. But the computer,
You don't. But this is still about nothing.
And strategically in the shot, because you have, 4 characters, Elaine and, George and all that there in the living room, but right in the same scene, you see the computer always. So they're not actually actively engaging with that computer, but it's there as the 5th character of Seinfeld. So that's one of the most popular examples if you look closely. But even there's examples all over, especially reality TV and these shows, particularly like America's Got Talent. You see the judges; they're always drinking out of these cups. Recently they're drinking out of Dunkin' Donuts cups. And then all of a sudden you cut away to Terry Crews in the background and backstage, and everyone's in the Dunkin' Lounge eating Dunkin' Donuts. That's not by accident.
Wow. This is true.
But all of a sudden you're at home, it's the #1 show, and you get hungry for Dunkin' Donuts just because you see them eating it all day long for 2 hours and things like that. So it's not by accident, and even early on, talking about Simon Cowell and, from his show, from American Idol, if people remember American Idol, the very first season or very first couple seasons, the judges were drinking Coca-Cola.
And Coca-Cola is a very big sponsor too.
They were.
Yeah.
But even to even further the marketing, the behind the stage, they had a couch, and the couch was in the shape of the old-fashioned Coca-Cola bottle, with the curvature. So the back of the couch is red, and then you have a stripe around it, and the curve resembles the Coca-Cola. So they never actually said, "Oh, we're sitting on the Coca-Cola couch" or everything, but it's subliminal marketing, because you see the judges in front of the camera, drinking this Coke in your face for 2 hours again, and then you're backstage, and subliminally you're there, and then
You want Coca-Cola.
right, and then there's a whole psychology behind the curvature of that bottle too. And there's even a documentary about the Coca-Cola bottle. People historically are conditioned to the curvature of that bottle. So
Wow, yes.
even modern day, we're talking about a couch. When people saw that, it's subliminally saying that curvature there. So when you go to the grocery store, you subliminally look for that curvature when you don't even know it. So like even present day, because back in the day, I'm talking like early 1900s and up to the 60s and things like that, it was all glass bottles that Coke had. It was the actual curvature in a glass bottle. In the present day, obviously they don't have glass. They may have some stores here and there with the glass, but it's typically in plastic. So if you look closely at the Coca-Cola ones, and it's only the Coca-Cola original ones, right? There's a curvature to the plastic bottle.
Yes.
Yeah. So the bottle of the thing, it resembles sort of not so much the top because it still resembles the regular plastic, but the bottom has a curvature, there. Because subliminally, you're stuck in your mind about the curvature. So you're buying that product, not even knowing. Obviously, it's Coke, but it's that curvature of the Coca-Cola brand and things like that. That's iconic. That's stuck in there. So it's subliminal marketing, and it goes all to it's studies about that, because literally firms are hired for things like that. Because early on with the plastic bottle, the curvature was not there when the plastic bottles first came out. It wasn't until they started transition into the whole debacle they had in the mid 80s when they came out with new Coke formula. People rebuked that. They say, we don't want new Coke. We want the old Coke. So they came back with old Coke. Mm-hmm. But then they changed their name, said original Coca-Cola formula. They actually had to write that on there. Original Coca-Cola formula they put there. And then as the 2000s came, things like that, they decided even more so, let's put the curvature back in, because now we're celebrating such anniversary of Coke, resurgence of discussion of things like that. So they put the curvature back into that bottle and then there. So no other plastic bottle, and I'm talking 2-liter bottles here, or even a small 20 ounces. No other company has a curvature there because there's a patent to that curvature.
Trademark,
to that, so you can't have, some other Pepsi come with a curvature because it's not their idea,
Oh, that's very, interesting. And again, it's all in the marketing and how, the legalities come in to trademarking something that is to make sure everyone knows that it is yours. This is where Rockefeller and a lot of the millionaires already knew to gain millions of dollars because they knew about trademarking and branding as well, which is amazing.
Yeah. It's important. The takeaway here is for people, they have to understand their brand. They have to understand how to protect their brand, understand the worth in the brand. And when I say worth, that doesn't mean you have to have $1 million brand monetarily today. It's understanding that there's potential in something that you have. Because if you don't have that protection or mindset of what you have, then there is no worth to that. Even if someone gives you $1 million for that doesn't mean anything if you have no worth behind it, because then that $1 million can go very quickly. What's going to happen for the next million after that? And there's lots of companies that have this conceit about their product, and it failed, over time. AOL was the most historic one. AOL, when it first came out, is all about the internet. They had their things. They were very, very popular, but they became very egotistical about their product because they said, oh, we're the ones everyone goes to. But then all of a sudden, high-speed internet came about. They were late to the game and did not invest the billions of dollars as their competitors did to invest from day one for high-speed internet. That's why today you have things like Verizon Fios and all that kind of stuff. And then, as we realized, AOL was big enough where they bought Time Warner, which is unheard of. AOL ended up buying Time Warner, which is one of the top, tier production companies, film companies, and publishing companies, and, so they called it AOL Time Warner back then. But everything messed up. AOL still exists in some form. It's not what it used to. They had to transform their business needs, as to a lot of companies. They transform their services, but they're more like a news aggregation service. They do original content. They have the TMZ TV show. That's AOL, productions, things like that. So they found their way today, but it wasn't nowhere near where it used to be. And even with Time Warner, they're nowhere where they used to be. Time Warner itself had to be broken up.
Right.
There is no more Time Inc., which has iconic publications like Time Magazine, People magazines, all of those. Some of those, they still exist in some form, but it's not the same company. That got sold to Meredith Publications, and then so on. Now it's a different owner. The same owner that owns Salesforce owns some of those magazines now. And then obviously the Warner brand, which is just the Warner Pictures brand, they're now owned by AT&T. So yeah, so they bought CNN and the Turner Broadcasting network of cable shows and all that kind of stuff, and also they had gotten rid of their music division, Warner Brothers Records. Warner Brothers Records has nothing to do with Time Warner anymore. That's years ago. It's some other company, and I think it's more like an investment company if I remember correctly, but they own some other things. So it's quite interesting the way it works out, but you never know, because we're talking about iconic companies that have been around for literally 100 years.
Very true.
And things change, people's pace changes and things like that. And I was fortunate enough to actually work at Time Magazine. I used to be a technical producer there, so I was part of that while AOL was still there, to witness some of these things and see that trajectory of things change, and the politics within various departments of the company, and how, the whole shift transpires, so it's very interesting.
But yeah, very interesting, they evolve over time, and how they evolve,
Yeah.
And understanding what the different trends are going to be, versus where they are now.
Mhm.
They would probably think differently, or handle their business a bit differently, because because they evolve with knowing the potential of how it grows. Sort of like Amazon.
Yeah.
Amazon, the gentleman that owns Amazon, is very interesting himself, because he has a very high understanding of conducting business and partnering, and understanding the potential of Amazon. I love that photo where there is a desk and a room, and then probably a banner that says Amazon.
Yeah.
They're saying that this is how it started, but he knew then what the potential was for Amazon.
Right.
At that point.
Mhm.
I wonder if there's any truth to that particular viral photo.
As far as I know, that is a true photo from when Amazon first started, and it's been documented before, and I think. But yeah, a lot of companies start like that. Look at Apple. Steve Jobs started in the garage with his partners and things like that. That's how companies start. It's success stories.
Wow. They have an understanding of their potential, sort of like in entertainment. They understand their branding. Like Tom, I love what you mentioned about Tom Hanks, and a lot of it may go over their heads, but Tom Hanks is a brand of his own.
Yeah.
He has a branding of his method of acting and how he comes across to his particular fans and audience.
Yeah, and not only branding, some of these artists and performers actually have trademarks on their name. Like Elton John trademarked his name. Madonna trademarked her name. Because it's not just about the music and the films that you do, it's products also. We're talking about merchandising. They have perfume lines, like, Celine Dion has a perfume line. Britney Spears, all these kind of people have perfume lines, colognes and things like that. And they need to have that to protect the branding, so make sure no one takes it, But let me just say, not to cut you off too, but I am being called to another meeting right now too.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
You've heard from Shefik, and where can they find you, Shefik, if they want to know to get to know you further and connect with you?
Yeah, so you can visit my production companies, for my radio show and TV show. It's invocation.co, so invocation.co, and then you can also find me online which is Sheffic Presents Invocation. And that's the Facebook page. And Sheffic_.info is the Twitter.
Absolutely. It's wonderful having you, Sheffic, and hopefully we'll have you again September 10th.
Okay.
I'm going to let you go to that meeting.
All right.
And thank you again. It's an honor to have you.
All right. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sheffic.
Bye.
And now I would like for you to meet again a wonderful, inspiring woman, Miss Mindy, and she has a book out, inspiring about her particular goings on and inspiration about being a resilient warrior, and also a project coming out as well, a film project based on her book. So I wanted to actually plug in that and the particular workshop as we are ending at this moment in time. Thank you everyone for being a part of our virtual entertainment workshop fundraiser for COVID-19. I definitely learned a lot. And again, we will be back September 10th for our next virtual entertainment workshop with even more amazing guest experts in the realm of entertainment. So again, thank you all for coming. And again, my name is Yolanda Nolly, CEO of Master Entertainment Workshops LLC, and also Radio and TV Entertainment Nets Inc. And again, thank you for coming. And we'll be back September 10th. Do go to eventbrite.com or Master Entertainment Workshops, masterentertainmentworkshops.org. To find out more about the contest, the Independent Filmmakers Contest, and the film soundtrack contest. And again, we are going to adjourn. Thank you so much for watching our live stream. Blessings, everyone.